Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back, gang. Summer is just around the corner here in the UK, and I've made a very bold move, let me tell you. I've retired my fleece-lined dog walking trousers for my early dog walks and replaced them with cargo shorts. Yes, there's no going back now. I'm fully committed to the cause until September, so wish me luck on that one. But moving swiftly on, Oleg Giberstein, co-founder of Coinrule, is going to be joining me today. And with Coinrule, hobbyist investors can compete with professional traders and hedge funds by creating automated strategies for crypto as well as stocks. And they've achieved over 209% of their seed target during one of their most recent crowdfunding campaigns, raising an impressive $700,000 from, I think, over 670 investors. Some of which were notably the founders of Twitch, EightSleep and Fitbit. But I want to learn more about the story behind the company, their success, how they got here, and where they're going. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Shoreditch in London, where Oleg is waiting to speak with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about your journey, how you got here, and your origin story?
Sure. First, thanks so much for having me on, Neil. Really excited. About myself. So I'm Oleg Giberstein. I am one of the founders of Coinrule, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer. Just a bit about my story. Like, I grew up in Germany, came to the UK to study like 16 years ago, went to work in banking, realized that's not really my cup of tea, quit, had one first pretty disastrous startup, which didn't go anywhere. But as part of that, we joined an accelerator program here in London. And that's where I met my two co-founders of Coinrule. And all of us were really getting into crypto and blockchain. It's like 2017, the previous bubble, the one before the current one. So everything was really exciting. Got together, started Coinrule. And yeah, here we are.
Brilliant. Love that. And I've got to ask, what do you miss most about home?
About home, I mean, to be honest, London is home now. You know, I've lived here as long as I lived in Germany, basically. And before that, I lived in Sweden, and I was actually born in Moldova. So I've lived in a couple of places. Like, home is, really where my wife and my laptop are, basically.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. And of course, present day, you're now the co-founder of Coinrule, which is a YCombinator backed startup, S21, which is all about catching the next market opportunity on your behalf by automating your investments. But can you set the scene and tell the listeners a little bit more and maybe offer an overview of Coinrule, just for anyone that's hearing about you guys for the first time, and what makes you different from other solutions?
Sure. I mean, so first of all, we help you to build automated trading strategies, right? And we do it in a really simple way. So the few things you kind of need to know about the setting to see the power of it is that today the majority of market flows, so like 80-90% of the market, are basically controlled by algo traders, high frequency trading firms, the kind of really advanced professional traders who really know what they're doing. But at the same time, what we've been seeing in the market is the rise of like hobby investors, hobby traders, people going on Robinhood and Free Trade and Revolut and just buying stocks and buying cryptos as well. Now, this is really becoming like a bigger and bigger wave. But these normal people, these millennial investors, Gen Z, etc., who are joining the market, they are discovering this is a 24/7 market. The market is not, easy to navigate. So solutions like us are coming up that are making it extremely easy for normal people to actually participate. So what do we actually do? We basically, if you trade on an exchange like Coinbase, like Binance, we give your exchange superpowers. Like, we make it really, really easy for you to build really powerful trading strategies. There's a community that we have where people exchange and discuss strategies. It's very social. And at the same time, you have this if this then that logic to build your rules, your trading rules, which can cover any kind of case, whatever the market will do, and they run on your behalf on the exchanges like Coinbase and Binance. So that's Coinrule in a nutshell.
And one of the things that stood out for me before you came on the podcast was that with Coinrule, hobbyist investors can compete with professional traders and hedge funds by creating those automated strategies for crypto as well as stocks. But of course, that space is incredibly intimidating for a lot of people listening. So can you walk me through how easy it is for even a novice to get to grips with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's a caveat. I would say, like, if this is your first ever entry into crypto, maybe we're not the right place for you to start. You should go, buy your first Bitcoin, buy your first Ethereum on like Coinbase, just kind of play around with it, see, what the market has to offer. But once you kind of start to spend a little bit more time trading and investing, that's when it's a good time to start to come to us. And how we make it easy, I mean, first of all, we have like pre-built templates, so you can select different strategies. You see how they performed on historical markets. So you see, for example, this was the performance of this strategy 1 year ago. So still, you as the user, you still need to think about it and go on, is how similar is today's market to, let's say, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, but still at least you have more information. You click, you just pick the template, it pre-fills the rule for you. The other thing you can do is, as a complete beginner, you can build accumulation strategies. So let's say every month, I just want to buy £100 or $100 of Ethereum, and that's it. And you can really easily automate that with Coinrule.
And I'm curious, as someone that's worked in banking and risk roles at Citigroup London for a number of years, how are you now finding the world of crypto, which of course has a reputation for being risky and volatile?
Oh, it's so much more fun. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Where to start? No, I mean, like, I never saw myself as like a traditional banker, right? Like, it's kind of the I don't want to go into like maybe too much depth now, but like a lot of today's banking and traditional finance world, it's not that there's no risk. It's just that the risk has been hidden in financial models and has been hidden in, extremely loose monetary policy and like kind of abstracted away in debt bubbles. So the risk is still there. It's just kind of differently packaged up. Whereas in crypto, the risk, it's much more obvious. It's much more clear. So for me, I actually find it less risky. I feel like I have much more control over what I'm doing. It's just you as the individual, you have to put in more work on research, on thinking, on like you actually have to be proactive. But actually, if you own your responsibility and you do the work, you are facing less risk than in the traditional finance world, in my opinion. But that, other people would probably disagree with that.
And I suspect there's a lot of people out there that have FOMO'd into a coin when they shouldn't have and have got carried away and hopped from coin to coin, etc. But I'm curious, what are the biggest mistakes that you've seen people making with trading and investing? There must be a few patterns that you see.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, a lot of mistakes that people make. I mean, first of all, the most obvious one, never invest more than you can afford to lose. This is extremely risky, extremely volatile. You can invest in really the most amazing projects and the market just for various reasons turns against you for the next 2-3 years. Like, it's a combination of just put in small amounts that you're comfortable with and you'll be fine. Now, what is the next mistake? People buy shitcoins. People invest in terrible stuff. Like, that is so obviously, like, people were like, I've been talking recently to people and they're like, oh yeah, I bought crypto in 2017, but it never really went anywhere. I'm like, show me your portfolio. They look at these coins. I'm like, what were you thinking? This is awful. People just want to get rich quick and they don't want to do the work. So instead of looking at a combination of tech and culture and really engaging with crypto, not just as a technology, but also as a community, as like almost a philosophy behind it for decentralization, and what do people actually care about? Where do people want to build on? What has actual potential? People are like, oh yeah, let me just buy the next dog coin. Like, that's just not going to work for you. And I mean, just some people just maybe, like, if they don't want to put in the work, they just should stay out of it, basically.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. And back to Coinrule, can we talk about your Y Combinator? How was that experience and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, great. No, absolutely. What YC was amazing. Like that was really like a game changer of an experience. What's interesting about it, we were actually quite advanced already as a company when we joined. We were in the beginning, we were even thinking, should we join or not? Because we already had quite a high monthly revenue. So we felt we were like fairly far along the road compared to, many of the other startups that were joining, which was true, but the reality is still, hearing firsthand from founders of Airbnb, of Stripe, of Reddit, Twitch, etc., companies which really have done incredible things, and just seeing how really down to earth and humble and thoughtful these founders are, and how they all struggled with the same challenges that we are going through. It's both humbling but also inspiring, because you can see these are people like us. There's nothing like magical that they did that there's no way we'll ever get there. And the other thing that YC was really amazing at is kind of creating this accountability framework. So they really create a kind of pressure environment in a good way, where you just want to keep working and delivering. And those were two amazing things. And obviously it really helped with brand awareness, credibility. Suddenly all the investors were coming to us rather than us chasing them. Like that obviously really helped as well.
And for any founders that are listening out there, what would you say the secret is to running a successful Y Combinator? I appreciate it's probably a pretty big answer, but are there any big takeaways?
Yeah, like I think in a way people almost overthink it. People always think they need to find like some really like secret special thing. The reality is what they always tell you, build product, talk to your customers. And if you just strip out all the other nonsense, like people in the early days, there's the amount of stuff founders do that is completely irrelevant to building product and talking to customers is immense. Like people spend their time on social media, on going to conferences, like all this, like playing startups instead of building startups. It's really a thing. And I honestly think if you apply for YC and you demonstrate them a deep understanding of your customers, and you show them what you have built so far, how you have tested it, and that there is already the first sign of traction, you have a good chance actually to make it.
And of course, there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, in doubt in the crypto space right now. But what are your feelings about the state of the market at the moment? Are you confident that the market will bounce back?
Like there's always fear, uncertainty, doubt, right? Yeah. Like it's normal. I'm absolutely confident the market will bounce back is even a strong word. I mean, if you compare where we've come to in 2 years, it's immense, right? So we need to really zoom out. On the short term, impossible to predict. I mean, the world economy looks pretty shaky. There are a lot of, challenges and difficulties. I don't even want to go into too much of it because it's a whole other conversation. Yeah. Like, look, would I be like super confident to predict a strong market for the rest of this year? Absolutely not. Am I confident to predict a really strong market over the next 3 to 5 years? Yeah, that's why I'm in the industry.
And another reason a lot of people got into the industry was because it was this decentralized solution and offering something different to the status quo that's out there at the moment. And of course, lots of countries and governments are now getting involved, creating their own digital coins, etc. Does it bother you that the old way of doing things and that those old institutions could hijack and we end up with the same system?
So it doesn't, because if they manage to build something that people want to use, then they, they deserve to get some of that mind share and usage. But I just don't think they will. They deeply fail to understand this industry. It's like when the internet was coming up and newspapers were building websites that were just basically like a picture of the newspaper uploaded on the website, right? Just the mindset is completely wrong. Like even today, I talk, again, it's a different topic, but I talk to people about like things like NFTs. And the amount of people who just don't get it, they just don't, like, it's not even, they understand the technology, but they don't understand like the cultural implications, and they don't understand, all these things. It's really large. And I talk to people at big companies and they don't get it. They still, whenever you hear enterprise blockchain, just run, just run. It's someone who has no clue what they're talking about. So yeah, there we go.
And of course, we've offered a great overview of Coinrule and hopefully introduced new people to what you guys are doing today. But there will be a few loyal members of your community listening. So for those people that have patiently listened to the overview, are there any teasers you can leave us with about what to expect in the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are building some really exciting stuff at the moment. So you mentioned earlier stocks. So we haven't actually launched our stocks integration yet, but that's something we will be working on this year. So we're aiming to get our first stock trading live as well later this year. We're working on a marketplace, so users will be able to actually share their own self-built strategies with the community, which will be really exciting. And we're just making the whole trading experience really much, much, much more powerful. And I think those three things for this year will just be a complete game changer for our users.
Absolutely love that. And I always like to end the podcast on a fun note. So can you share the funniest or most interesting story that has happened to you in your career? I'm sure you've got a few of them throughout your career.
Career, maybe I will tell a slightly personal story, and it's not funny, but it's definitely interesting. I was in a relationship with a girl who got kidnapped, and that's a really crazy story. And it took us like 3 months to get her back. It was in North Africa, long story. It was the first and last time in my life that it became useful that I had studied international relations, because I happen to know a lot of people in, various international organizations, parliaments, etc. So we had to like rally support and do some crazy things, and eventually it all worked out. But this was definitely the most, let's say, interesting story of my career/life.
Oh my God, what a story. And did you have to pay a certain amount of Bitcoin to get it back?
No. Luckily, I was not yet in crypto at the time. That's like six years ago. No, it was a lot of, political games to play at that time.
Wow. Well, I hope everything's okay now. And for everyone listening who wants to find out more information about Coinrule, maybe join your community and dig a little bit deeper in the subject, what's the best way of finding you online?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm on Twitter on @Giberstein, and that's usually the best way to find me.
And there's so many different domains out there. The Coinrule website, what's the website address for that?
Yeah, that's coinrule.com. Nice and simple. Yeah.
Nice and easy. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, talking about all things fintech, crypto, trading, investing, raising money, and also leaving us with a story that I'll never forget too. But thanks so much for sharing your story today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Neil. It was a pleasure to be on.
What a great story that began in banking and risk roles at Citigroup, where he spent a number of years there. And he also organises Enterprise Ethereum Alliance meetups in London. So if you are listening to me in London, keep an eye out for them. But a big thank you to him for sharing his story to you. But over to you. Do you have a story that you'd like to share with me on this podcast, or just a question? Whatever it is, remember you can send me a message at techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Let's keep this conversation going. Let me know your insights and experiences. And other than that, I'll return again tomorrow with another completely different topic in tech. So thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.